It's on. Okay. It's currently 5 till, so if everybody doesn't have a problem with getting out, I don't know, about a quarter after, possibly 12:30. Is that a problem with anybody? Okay, great. All right, so today's verse was over Revelation 13, 16 through 17. And it's obviously talking about the mark of the beast. As Adventists, we like to preach on that quite a bit. And so everybody's probably heard a sermon on that and maybe has a good concept of what that is. Today's sermon is not about the mark of the beast, surprisingly. But it's about a story. A few months back, I was about, 50 pounds heavier than what I am now. I was about 255, which that's probably obese, I would assume, considering today's standards. But it's probably about more than average for most Americans. I wouldn't say most of the world, but most Americans. I mean, we pretty much invented food, or as far as we claim to be food. With our high-calorie rich diets, it's really easy to get overweight these days. And I've always had a problem with that. I've always been overweight as a kid. When I was about, 15 or 16, I lost, it was probably in the range of 50 or 60 pounds. I think I weighed about 180. And around 21, I became an Adventist, somewhere in there. And when I became an Adventist, I thought, I'm healthy. Most Adventists are supposed to be healthy. I'm assuming that we're all healthy. And so you come into the church and, you think everybody's going to be healthy. And, when you get here, you realize we're all Americans. We all still love to eat. We just don't eat pork and, any unclean thing, which, that's good. But if we have a health message, we need to look the part. You can't go and try to sell a health book if you're 70 pounds overweight. It's probably not a very good health book, or you're a very good salesman for selling the health book. So anyways, a few months back, I started to lose weight, and it's a long road. We see all these ads on TV, and we think, 30 days, we'll lose it all. 10 days, we'll lose 10 pounds. That's not reality. I started by simply just not getting cheese on my cheeseburger. You order a medium Coke instead of a large Coke. A large Coke is better, but medium Coke will suffice. You maybe get the small fry instead of the large fry. Soon, a month later, you may lose 10 pounds. You may only lose 5, which is pretty discouraging compared to what you see on TV. So, what does this have to do with the mark of the beast? What does this have to do with the mark of the beast at all? We see temperance in the Bible. I don't know if we have a strong grasp on temperance or what it even really is. Temperance is simply a moderation of self-restraint, especially in eating or drinking. And I was reading in Acts of the Apostles, and I found on page 529, paragraph 3, simply said this: "And besides this, giving all diligence, add to your faith virtue, and to virtue knowledge, and to knowledge temperance, and to temperance patience." I've always had quite a bit of patience. I don't know why, but I have. And I noticed a few months back that inwardly, I was struggling with patience. Outwardly, I was still a pretty patient person, but inwardly, I could, things were just getting on my nerves. And I could only come back to, I'm heavily drinking caffeine. I think I was, drinking something like 6 cups of coffee a day. I was tired when I still came home from work and needed more caffeine to be awake, which, I'm 25 and I should still have some energy when I come home from work. It's not like I got a new job that's especially demanding or anything. I've been working at the same job for 2 years, and, a job of any sorts will condition you for the work that you need. You don't necessarily have to work out to be conditioned for your job. And so I knew this wasn't the problem. I knew it was simply in what I was eating. And since temperance builds on patience, I thought, so in order to become more patient, I need to become more temperate, which is very difficult. It is probably the perfect temptation is temperance. Because if you think about it, food indulges all the senses. It indulges your smell. It indulges your feeling when you eat it. If it doesn't feel right, you're probably not going to eat it. If it doesn't smell right, you probably won't eat it. If it doesn't look right, you probably won't eat it. Where most other sins, they don't indulge all these things. Kind of like lust, it only really indulges what you see. Your emotions also, but just what you see. And where stealing, you just want something that you don't have. Just certain things like this, but temperance is especially difficult because we have to eat every day, obviously. And if we don't eat, we die. That's the simple facts. But the problem is when we eat, we don't have any self-restraint. And that is where temperance comes into play. If you order the large fry and you only eat half of it, and you're pretty good on temperance, but more than likely that won't happen. So, again, what does this have to do with the mark of the beast? Can we now turn to Genesis 25, verses 29 through 34. This is a story about Jacob and Esau. Jacob was a mild-mannered man. You can find that up in verse, I believe it's 27. We find in verse 27 says, "So the boys grew, and Esau was a skillful hunter, a man of the field, but Jacob was a mild man, dwelling in tents." If we skip on down to verse 29, says, "Now Jacob cooked a stew, and Esau came in from the field, and he was wearied. And Esau said to Jacob, 'Please feed me with that same red stew, for I am weary.' Therefore his name was called Edom. But Jacob said, 'Sell me your birthright as of this day.' And Esau said, 'Look, I am about to die, so what is this birthright to me?' Then Jacob said, 'Swear to me as of this day.' So he swore to him and sold his birthright to Jacob." Now if we change the word birthright to inheritance, because that's all that birthright means, he sold his inheritance to his brother, all because he was merely hungry, which is kind of crazy. If you're going to inherit, say, your dad's house, and your brother's going to inherit less, why would you, give a house to him over mere food? He probably wouldn't have died in the next 5 minutes. He felt like he was going to die, but probably not. Probably if he would have waited an hour, he could have went and got a meal and been fine. But it was about right now. Now, where this comes into play with the mark of the beast, so we won't be able to buy or sell anything. I don't know about you, but I do not farm my own food. And I'm probably not capable of maybe growing a few tomatoes or cucumbers or something, but that is not going to suffice on keeping me alive for very long. So I rely on trading my work for money and my money for food. That's what I do. And if I am not able to buy my food, I really can't eat, so I just have to rely on God to feed me. So when the mark of the beast comes into place, it's going to be difficult because we won't be able to buy our food. And where this makes it difficult for Americans, we buy our food from fast food, just wherever. And what happens is, as soon as our food is taken away from us, our caffeine is taken away from us, our McDonald's is taken away from us. Because when you eat McDonald's and then you eat a cucumber doesn't taste that great. And I don't think God will be providing McDonald's to me when the mark of the beast is in play. So the only way to make this easier when this comes into play is to start it now. And with our inheritance being the kingdom of God, would we sell our inheritance over merely just eating, just because we can take the mark of the beast and have all the food we want? It may not seem like we would do it now, but I know that if I was to take all my caffeine away all at once, all my cheeseburgers away all at once, I would probably be rather agitated and emotional. And I may make very poor decisions at that point in time for claiming food. Because our inheritance, we cannot see it. It's not even merely tangible. And when we can't see something, it's really easy to give it up. And to give it up over something very small, which is just food. So may we all just be more temperate, and that we would just look towards our inheritance for when that time comes. And now I believe we sing the final hymn.